Good evening, everyone. We're just going to start for the sake of time. I know that we have a lot of people still on the road. We've been getting a lot of emails and texts and phone calls. We're sitting in Atlanta traffic, so we'll go ahead and get started. To get started, we're going to go ahead and start with the Korean American national anthems. They're going to be sung by Michael Beck and Dahlia Song. 시간상으로 딱 1절만 부르겠습니다. 네, 감사합니다.
한 달 전에 애틀랜타에 새로운 김성진 총영사입니다. 오늘 트래픽 때문에 지금 길에 여러분들이 계시는 것 같은데 제 말 못 알아들으시는 분 손 들어보세요. 뜻밖인데요? 제가 사실은 계속 한국말로 하려는 건 아니고요. 사실은 2001년에 제가 처음 그 전에 이제 뉴욕은 출장을 많이 갔었지만 근무를 나와서 이런 파티에 가면 고민이 생기더라고요. 한국말로 할까, 영어로 할까. 반반씩 하니까 오히려 내용은 절반만 준비하니까 편하긴 하더라고요. 한국말로 이만큼 하고 또 영어로 이만큼 하니까. 그래서 오늘은 사실은 지금 한국말로 하는 거하고 전혀 다른 내용을 영어로 했기 때문에 저한테는 2배 부담이 있긴 한데, 아무래도 제가 모든 행사를 가면은 미국 국가, 한국 국가, 애국가 이렇게 두 가지 하면서 제가 느끼는 점은 이런 거예요. 여러분은 참 행복하다. 지구상에서 가장 친한 두 나라의 자기 아버지의 모국, 그리고 여기서 자기가 태어났든지 계속 살고자 하는 나라. 이 두 나라가 이 지구상에서는 가장 친한 나라거든요. 그 두 나라 국가를 동시에 부를 수 있다는 것은 굉장한 축복입니다. 그리고 또 하나. 제가 팀워만큼 영어 아무리 해도 못해요. 제가 10살 때 처음 미국 사람한테 영어를 배워서 지금 50년을 각 나라에 다니면서 거의 쓰고 있는데도 팀워를 따라갈 수가 없죠. 근데 여러분들은 두 가지 언어를 지금 뭐 젊잖아요. 얼마든지 100% bilingual you can be. 그래서 여러분들 보면 참 부러워요. 제가 오늘 한 달밖에 안 됐는데 11월 1일이니까 한 2주 전이죠. 플로리다 올랜도에서 한 4명 변호사, 의사, 그다음 CPA, 공명의사 이런 분들 여러분하고 비슷한 분들하고 똑같은 행사를 했어요. 거기 이제 플로리다에서 처음 했는데 어떤 분이 손을 들면서 이렇게 물어봐요. 그랬더니 자기는 뉴욕에서 공부를 해서 올란도에서 지금 사무실에서 변호사를 하는데 오늘 오는 모임을 초대를 받고 자기가 생각했대요. Is this a fundraiser? Something like that. 그러더니 이제 행사를 다 듣고 나서 I got it. 자기가 이제 뭘 해야 될 거라는 것을 느꼈대요. 자, 지금까지 제가 한국말로 일부러 한 거예요. 여러분들에게 한국말은 영어만큼 참 beautiful language 보여드리기 위해서 지금부터는 제가 그냥 영어를 팀워크만큼 잘 못하기 때문에 자 이렇게 보고 할게요. 근데 어느 순간부터 이제 눈이 안 보이기 시작하더라고요. 그래서 요거를 조금 이용하겠습니다. Good evening, everyone. Let me start by sharing with you some good news. In the midterm election last week, the Honorable Georgia representative, who is here? Oh, finally you got it. Georgia representative Mr. Vijay Park won the election for his third term, and Mr. John Park was newly elected as councilman for the city of Brookhaven. Please join me in congratulating them on their victory. The Korean Consulate General is very pleased once again to sponsor the Night for Korean American Future Generations this evening. We have about 150 young Korean American professionals and students with us tonight. On behalf of the Korean Consulate General and myself, I sincerely welcome all of you. You truly are an invaluable asset for the future of local Korean American communities and also for Korea, your motherland. Dear friends, as a matter of fact, Koreans on average are smarter, more organized and intelligent, better educated, and have higher incomes than other minority groups in the United States. However, their voices in the rule-making process and their engagement in mainstream society are not strong enough. In some sense, it is regrettably negligible, I must say. Sorry. So we need to reposition ourselves in every sector as soon as possible. We need urgent action and more active engagement now. Tonight, we have a very special guest. I met him 3 days ago in person. the Honorable Representative BJ Park. He is one of the role models I have spent many years looking for in the United States. He is a good lawyer and a very prominent politician in Georgia. Most amazingly, he is a good father of 3 daughters, and he is proud of being Korean American. So your wife is not here, right? We also have 3 distinguished speakers who have made great accomplishments within their respective professions. They will share with us their experiences and lessons about how to succeed in America as a Korean American. First speaker, in the area of social engagement and service, and his wife, Suki, we have Mr. Steve Sterling, President of CEO of MAP International. Second speaker from the business sector, Mr. Tae Park, President of Mender America. Actually, he was supposed to report to his CEO in headquarters in Seoul this moment, but he excused himself because of this important event. Is that right? Last but not least, in the area of political empowerment, Mr. John Park, newly elected councilman of the city of Brookhaven, and his wife, Morgan Harris. I truly admire you all, speakers, for what you accomplished so far. I do hope you continue to be the role models and mentors to our future generations. Please welcome our first speaker, the Honorable Representative BJ Park.
Thank you, Consul General Kim. First of all, let me apologize for being a little late. Apparently Atlanta has a traffic problem, and somebody should really do something about that. But in all honesty, it took me actually an hour to get here from my office in Midtown, which is kind of surprising. A bit of an accident in Pleasantville. And my wife sends her regrets, unfortunately, because she also works. The work schedule, she couldn't make it today. And thank you for inviting me back to this wonderful event. And I'm very, very proud to see that during the time that last time I was up here, we were able to see a wonderful candidate, Tim Herr, running for State House. And yeah, where's Tim? There you are. And John Mark succeeded in winning a council seat, which we're very proud of you. I want to make comments on a couple things today, and I'll sit down and have a lot of speakers. First of all is, this week we celebrated Veterans Day on Tuesday, and Veterans Day has a very special meaning to me, because I look at it, a lot of people remind me that we're asking a question about, hey, aren't you glad that you're immigrated to the United States and you've actually become an attorney, learned to speak the language, and were elected by mostly people who don't look like us from the Korean. And I always go back to the fact that when I was in middle school, a lot of my friends used to ask me, hey, do you ever wonder how your life would turn out if you stayed in Korea? And of course, if I had a doppelganger, I could probably ask that question too. But I think back even further than that, and I think about if you see a lot of war veterans, especially the Korean War veterans. I know a lot of you guys are running home. You notice that they always come up to you and tell you where they were stationed and what memories they had about Korea, right? Anybody else have that experience? Yeah, maybe. And I think back, when they were a lot younger than me, and they were deployed by the president to go fight in a war of a country that they really had no interest in other than protecting the idea of freedom. I know there was a Cold War there, and there was a big fight between the Chinese and the Russians and America. And America felt like it was very, very important that if you didn't stop the spread of communism in the rest of the world, that it was going to be a big threat to America. As a result, our great country has sent their sons and daughters into war to battle in a little peninsula in our homeland. But for the fact that many men and women sacrificed in those wars, there's no way many of us, all of us probably, will be sitting here in this wonderful room in Georgia, enjoying the freedoms that we enjoy today. And I never forget that, and every time that I run into a veteran, I always ask them, thank you for your service. It doesn't really matter if they're military police, if they're, deployed in Afghanistan. The fact of the matter is that you're willing to serve. And the idea that you're going to sacrifice your career, your life, livelihood, and the family who love them and sacrifice and sending their loved ones into war is based on the belief that the freedoms that we enjoy is important enough to do that. Now let's fast forward the week before Veterans Day. On Tuesday we had a little election event. Everybody remembers that. And as a Republican, that should be celebrating a landslide victory nationwide and the state levels. But I saw the results come out and I was utterly disappointed. The fact that one of the things that we take for granted, which is voting, we only were able to turn out 50% of the eligible voters. It made me very sad, and I'm actually going to cull through the data for Asian Americans and see how we did. And if you recall, and a lot of you heard me speak before, in 2012, in Gwinnett County, where we sit today, with the highest Asian American population, and in a presidential election year, we were only able to turn out 50% of our votes. What that tells me is, as immigrants, we've become too accustomed to the freedoms that we enjoy. That's why I enjoy Veterans Day, because it reminds me that, freedom really isn't free. It knows no red states, blue states. It knows no bounds of partisanship, Republican, Democrat, or independent otherwise. And I scratch my head all the time trying to think about why is it that we have such low turnout between the first generation and the second generation. And I've come to one conclusion. The fact of the matter is, those of us in the 1.5 of the second generation who have no language barriers, who have no career barriers, we're not doing enough to encourage our fellow community members to go vote. If not, what we're doing is we're saying that we're going to go vote and we just don't do it. Now, we have celebrated great success this past year, and there's some things to be very, very happy about. When I saw that John was successful in his bid, and I know Tim became very, very close to winning his primary, I was very proud that we see more and more people offer themselves in public service. One comment I would like to make about that is being a candidate is not an easy thing. I think Tim and John would agree. It's not an easy thing. And I know a lot of you have desire to run for office, and becoming a candidate doesn't mean that that's the most important thing to do for your community or in the world. What I will tell you is that when a candidate, whoever it is, whether or not you like them or not, Republican, Democrat, offer themselves to put their name on the ballot, it is like serving. You really don't know what they go through until you yourself put yourself on the ballot. To be judged left and right or wrong, unfairly criticized. They get mailing. John all knows about that, I'm sure. Now I have somebody to share that story with. But the fact of the matter is, all of us could do more to engage in the process. Supporting our fellow candidates who offer themselves for public service. Not to mention, one other thing that we can do is just thank them for offering. or thank them. Hey, let me help you with this, let me help you with that. I think we're making progress, like the Consul General said. And I'm so very, very excited about the future. And I was very privileged to be able to serve one more term in the House of Representatives at the Georgia House. And hopefully we'll tackle that transportation problem. But I'll leave you with this. In 2014, we have a historic moment in our Asian American community in Georgia. The reason I say that is, for the first time, I think the national party, the state parties, the local parties have really made a concerted effort to reach out to get more Asian American community to vote. What we're lacking now is from the community meeting them halfway. So as we go into 2016, we have a great challenge, and also we now have an obligation to do that. Not just for yourself, not just for the third generation like my daughters, who I always take to go voting because I think it's a very exciting thing for them. But for our first generation, for us, and for, of course, the people who are making sure or making efforts to assimilate all of us to community. I do hope that in 2016, when we have a presidential election, that our turnout percentage is higher than any other group. And I know we can do it, and there's a big movement towards that. Now, as everybody's focused in our community, I ask you, just as a personal favor to you, from now on, just register one other person that you know didn't vote in 2014. And in 2016, call them and say, hey, let's go vote. We even probably going to get Sunday voting is when I count soon too. And that being said, in 2017, after the election, who knows, we may actually have a U.S. congressperson, may have a statewide office holder, or federally appointed judge, or any other high-profile position from our Korean immigrant community. I look forward to the day when we don't have to have a gathering like this, because we're doing so well, right? And lastly, I really want to thank you, the community, for always supporting me and supporting people like John and Tim when we run for office. It really does mean a lot to have a basic support. It really connects you back to the community from which you came, and also gives you hope and courage to tackle the tough issues going forward. If I could be of any assistance, or my office could be of any assistance in what you're doing, please do not hesitate to give me a call or my office. If you go to my website, my cell phone's on there. A lot of people are surprised that I actually answer the phone, but I do. And I'll be sure to do whatever I can to advance our community and our Georgia community as a whole. Thank you very much.
없사 생각 안녕하세요. And that's most of my Korean career from the side. So, when, first of all, I want to thank the Consul General of Korea, Atlanta, for hosting this event. Thank you very much for coming to the U.S. a month ago and then hosting this wonderful event. And all the organizers, and also the my colleague speakers, and also Representative Park and John Park for your services. That's 24/7 have a job, and especially when you use your cell phone out. So thank you for serving our country. I was asked to talk about a topic that might be of interest, and so I was talking to my wife and talking back and forth, and about being Korean American. And what really, what I lived in this country is about 40 years now, I'm old. But I was adopted when I was 11 years old. I was in an orphanage in outside of Ulsan, Korea. And they have a saying that if you're a Korean adoptee with American or Caucasian parents, that you're like a banana or a Twinkie, because we're yellow on the outside, white in the middle. And so when I came to this country, my parents and my friends and whatnot are all white, Caucasian, but when I look at the outside, I'm Korean. And so in my identity, really looking at it, so who am I? And I think I'll talk about that tonight, and also about who I am today, and who the people in my life that contributed to who I am today. So if that's okay, just keep it informal, and then I'll talk about how I got here today. When I was one, I had polio in South Korea. The vaccination hadn't quite got to Seoul yet. And I got the polio virus. And my father, my Korean father, and my mother tried to do their best to take care of me. And right after the Korean War, the situation was not that great in the 50s and the early 60s. So they heard about a Christian orphanage called Seoul outside of Ulsan, Korea. My father, unbeknownst to my mother, took me there and literally abandoned me so that I may have a better life. So when you look at it, I really thank my father, my grandfather, for taking care of me, and then also having the courage and the love for me to say, you know what, even though I love my son so much, I'm going to give him up so that he may have a better chance in life. So he literally did that at his footstep of the orphanage. And my younger sister, Mary Ellen, Youngie, was also left about a week later. So she and I were together always growing up. And so my grandparents family took care of me, and he was careful of me as well. Second is, when I was in the orphanage, I was sponsored by a woman that sent $10 a month, and back in the 60s, there was a lot of money, so that I could have crutches and braces, and so I could go to school. Before I had crutches and braces, I could not walk. I literally had to crawl on my hands and legs, and that's how people and children in the developing countries get around. You don't have wheelchairs, you can't use wheelchairs. So, but I was very fortunate, got sponsored, and then I was able to then go to school in Korea. And this person that helped me in her life of service, I later met her in Walla Walla, Washington. And I found out that she was a person of wealth. That in fact she had 2 children, and her husband was a post office worker. And he told her, if you want to sponsor my friend named Young Soo by $10 a month, you have to earn your own money. I'm not going to give you my money. So she literally had to clean houses. She cleaned homes so she could send me $10 a month so I could then have crutches and braces and go to school and have a life. So that's, wow, how about her, she did that so that I could have a chance in life. And by serving in her way, just one child that she got $10 a month, that's because I'm here today. But the next person is my adopted parents. They adopted 6 kids, 4 from Korea and 2 from America, and then God blessed them, one of their own at the end. But then they sacrificed their life, and my dad was an engineer. He didn't make a huge amount of money, but he said, no, I want to help children, so they adopted 4 of us from Korea. And again, another impacting other people's lives by giving of themselves. by saying, let me help somebody else improve some health. And because of that, I was able to come to America. And I remember coming in in 1966 from Seoul to Anchorage, Alaska. That's where we moved to, or I was adopted to. And I really thought, well, this is a land of milk and honey, because back then still America was this was a wonderful place to go to. Anything was possible. And so for me, it was like the ultimate to be able to be adopted into an American family. So I worked really hard, and I really prayed to God to, Lord, help me. And this country enabled me to, my parents could not afford to send me to the school, colleges. And I remember when I was in junior high school, I asked my parents, I said, Mom and Dad, where are the best colleges in the United States? And I said, well, there are Ivy League schools in Stanford. I said, well, I'm going to go to one of them one day. I said, well, Steve, they're very expensive, they draw not much money, and they're hard to get into. And they're probably like, this kid's not that smart. And, but God was able, He provided for me to go there. I went to Cornell and then fell out on my MBA. But it's really about who made that possible. I did not do that on my own. It was people that was helping me all along, because we did not get to where we are by ourselves. And the next person that helped me to where I am now is my wife, my best half. We've been married for 34 years now, and she's a saint because of that. And she gave up her career so she could follow me literally across the country, from corporate America, where I was working with Johnson & Johnson, with Bristol-Myers Squibb, with American products. And then about 14 years ago, we were getting to live in the lifestyle of corporate America as a vice president and whatnot. Something happened, and this person, I would have never thought would impact my life this way. But I went back to Korea in 1991, and I met my childhood friend. His name is Song, and he has severe cerebral palsy. So he's in a wheelchair, and he could barely feed himself. But he was smiling, this nonstop smiling. So I thought, maybe he's a friend of mine. So I asked Song, I said, you remember me? He goes, yes, I remember you, Mamsu. I said, what do you remember me about? He said, well, you used to beat me up every single day. And I'm pretty strong upper body, and I felt really bad because it was a funeral, and it's the first time I've seen this guy, and the first thing he tells me is that I beat him up all the time. And what was happening was I got picked on badly at school, then I went back to the place where the handicapped kids were staying. So then I took it on them. So I said, would you forgive me, Song, for what I did to you growing up? He said, Myung-soo, I forgave you a long time ago because Jesus forgave me my sins. And when he said that, he literally changed my life, because I started thinking to myself, what am I doing with my life? Why was I the only kid with disability to be adopted to one family, go to schools and get married to a wonderful wife, have two wonderful children. By the way, it's my son's birthday today. Seattle, Washington's attorney. Don't hold that against him. But wonderful kid, all of these things. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? God was doing that for a purpose. It was not for my selfish gain to say, look what I've done. But rather, He was going to use that to really help other people. And so when He said it to me, I started thinking to myself, boy. So it was kind of a journey, took me about 6 months. And then I realized that the orphanage that I grew up in was started because of the founder of World Vision helped start that. So then I really picked up the phone and I said, called them, and I told my situation, and I think I can help you. And then long story short, after many interviews, I was hired as Vice President of Marketing Operation at World Vision, and that was my start of working in nonprofits and helping the least of these. And most recently, and I've traveled probably over 40-some countries around the world. And it's not easy work, because anything in life that's worthwhile, it's not easy. And particularly as you get older, these steps are nothing compared to what they're in India. Usually some of the steps are like that high. And so it's not that easy to get around. But so I was really thankful that my family and my wife said, let's go to nonprofits for half the salary and for all these other things you don't get. But it's been so fulfilling and rewarding, because the last 14 years I've been working has been so much more rewarding than working for companies. I do have some days when I miss working at corporations and said, oh, why did we do this? And but really, when you meet some of these people, because God gives each one of us in this room and also around the world potential. But sometimes you have to unlock that potential by just getting a little bit of help. And whether I was in Korea and with polio, or it could be some mother with a child that is sick and they don't have any money to pay for the medicine, that child has potential. And if I could do something to help that child, it's really my obligation and responsibility. And just to talk a little bit about the rest of the world, there's 1.4 billion people. That's with the B. 1.4 billion people in this world that live on less than $2 a day. Just imagine that $2. What can you buy with $2? Can you buy Starbucks coffee for $2? But $2 a day is what they live on. And oftentimes they have to make a choice. Do I feed my child, or do I buy the medicine if that child is sick? And so, and oftentimes the hunger pains will go out and the child doesn't get the medicine, and then it turns suffer the consequences. And actually about 10 years ago when I was traveling for World Vision, I met a young girl in Cambodia. And Cambodian people are very shy, very gentle people. And she had a prosthetic leg, so I asked her, what happened to you? And because I had questions, she opened up to me. And she said, well, when I was 12 years old, she was playing outside, and she stepped on a nail, and all the way through her foot, and it got infected. Well, they took herbal medicines and wrapped her foot and tried to get her to be healed, but it didn't work. So finally, it got to the point where it was gangrene, and they had to actually amputate her leg at the time. And she said that she was so ashamed of her situation that she did not come out of her house for nearly 1 year. And I told you that story because a simple 7-day course of antibiotics that you go to CVS for, pay a copay to get that would have prevented her from losing her leg. And so then you say, well, what can I do now? Because they're so busy, I mean, as our Representative Carter was saying, only 50% of the people voted here. They're so busy, you can't even go out and vote. So how do we then take time to say what kind of work can we do for people around the world? Well, just to give you some examples, and there are many other good causes, but MAP stands for Medical Assistance Program. And we basically do 3 things. One is we provide essential medicines, which get donated, by the way, by pharmaceutical companies. So we work with Johnson & Johnson, Bristol Myers Squibb, Janssen Pharmaceuticals, 3M, and other very Abbott Labs, and AbbVie. They donate to high-quality pharmaceutical products. Then we have to then raise more money to ship it. So they're not going to pay for shipping for customs runners and all that. So then we work with 100 other partners, roughly 20 big ones, in 100 countries. And through them, we're able to ship the products to needy people around the world. And then we also do disaster response. You've all heard about Ebola crisis in West Africa. We have people working in Liberia and in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. Primarily Liberia to help make sure that the crisis stays contained, but also to really help people. Something simple as analgesics. One of the treatments for Ebola, for people affected, are you got to reduce the fever, then you have to treat the diarrhea because you otherwise will die. So oral rehydrated solution, something simple like a Pediasure or Gatorade, that's the oral ORS, that will prevent that person from help to increase that person's live. So those are the type of things that we do. In the last area is the area of what we call neglected tropical diseases. Things like leprosy. People think leprosy went out with the Bible times. No, there's still people with leprosy around the world. Guinea worms, blindness that's caused by trachoma and whatnot. So those are the things that people around the world live with every single day. And we, as Korean Americans, we can also help by saying, I'll do this, and we will be responsible for your health care. So I think this is a wonderful group of, I'm proud to be Korean American. I I thank God that I am a Korean American and the opportunities He has given us, maybe through this country of ours, and that is our obligation to give back. It's really, we're blessed to bless other people. And you know, Winston Churchill once said that you make a living by working salary, but you make a life by giving and serving others. And I think that came through with our Consul General's comment earlier. So I know you guys will do great things, and Korean people are making headlines everywhere, and let's go out and on the social space as well by helping those who are in need. And who knows, somebody else could be standing up here 10 years from now because you have reached out to that person to help them. So thank you, and thumbs up.
Good evening. Mr. Sterling, I was talking to him earlier, and it's an amazing story what he went through as well as what he is into now. I think it's great that you can help people. And you know, one thing about helping people, and you hear stories all the time, but you don't know if you do partner up with a certain association, you don't know where the money is going. So it's hard to go in. But after meeting Mr. Sterling, I think we're going to talk more. And it's great what you're doing, and I appreciate it. Tonight, I want to thank Consul General Kim, as well as his assistants for putting this together and inviting me. Consul General earlier stated that amongst minority, Koreans are probably smarter and better educated, but I'm not one of them. You guys are probably smarter than me. I'm just an average guy that just happened to have a good street smarts and common sense, and fought for what I wanted, and happened to be in the right place, and I'm running a company. So I'm happy, but, and also education-wise, I don't think you guys would probably think where I went to school is good education, but I went to Ohio State. They are doing good in football. They get Michigan State, I think they will get in top 10, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, I'm surprised that ladies here don't drive Hyundai or Kia. You know, that's amazing, but they do make some good cars. And that kind of leads to what I want to tell you today. You guys are Koreans or Korean Americans. There are some Americans here. And you guys have heard that there's Hyundai and Kia here, but that's all you know. You don't know the story beyond it. What it takes to make Hyundai and Kia a car, what it takes to make Hyundai and Kia make the money that they make. And I want to tell you a little more about that. And it's actually good that none of the ladies here do drive Hyundai and Kia, because now I'm going to tell you a story, and I think you're going to want to buy a Hyundai and Kia. There's actually 3 sections that I want to tell you. And because I'm an engineer, I have to have PowerPoint, otherwise I can't talk. So there is PowerPoint screens right there, okay? First section is I want to tell you a little about the automotive manufacturing presence in Southeast U.S. from Korea. I think you guys should be proud. I think you will be proud that you are Korean when you hear what I'm about to tell you. The second part is I'm obligated to talk about the company that I work for and that I run, Mando globally, as well as about Mando America. Okay? So this is the first section. You know, there are other car makers in Southeast region of the U.S., but I don't care about Honda or Mercedes or BMW or Volkswagen, because you know they're not Korean car makers. However, there are 2 Korean car makers in Alabama and Georgia. HMA, which is Hyundai, that's in Montgomery, and KMMG, which is Kia, that's in West Point, Georgia. But I think most of you know those 2 things, and that's probably as far as you know as far as the automotive manufacturing in Southeast U.S. What you didn't know is that there are 30 Tier 1 suppliers to Hyundai and Kia that came from Korea that are located in Alabama and Georgia. There are 39 plants. There are 27 plants in Alabama, and there are 12 plants in Georgia. Next. It's so nice to have an assistant who can put the pages for you, you know. And those 39 plants, they have 10.5 million square feet of manufacturing plants. That's a big plant. And 60.5 million square feet of manufacturing land, which means they can expand them. And those Hyundai and Kia combined invested about $3.5 to $4 billion in Alabama and Georgia. But these other companies also invested almost $2 billion so far in both Alabama and Georgia. So that's a lot of investment, and a lot of people don't know that. Next, please. Hyundai and Kia also has about 2,500 to 3,000 employees in each of their locations. But Hyundai and Kia cannot run without Tier 1 suppliers. So if you look at the suppliers, there are almost 13,000 employees in those 39 plants in Alabama and Georgia. That's 13,000 people that did not have a job in Alabama and Georgia that are now working for these companies. Almost 1,800 of them are salaried employees, and about 11,200 of them are hourly employees. No, you're not supposed to go until I tell you. If she was working for me, she would have been fired. Anyways, you know, there are 13,000 people working for these companies. Imagine what kind of payroll these companies are paying to these 13,000 people. And I wanted you to actually guess before the next slide came up, but she flipped it. But so you know the answer. Next week. $580 million per year. These companies pay to Alabama and Georgia residents in payroll. It's $580 million of income per year that they did not have that Alabama and Georgia are getting. I want you to also think about this. $580 million, how much is it? How much do you think Atlanta Braves make per year? Or their revenues are per year? Or Atlanta Falcons? Can anybody guess? Paul, take a guess. Atlanta Braves, their revenue last year was $261 million. Okay? So it's pretty close, 261 million. Atlanta Falcons last year was 280 million. So as much money as Atlanta Braves and Atlanta Falcons made last year, that's how much these Korean companies pay to Alabama and Georgia residents in payroll. That's a lot of money. They didn't have it before. Next, please. She's doing good now. No, you gotta go back again. Okay, now, that was the payroll we were talking about. But let's look at sales. We already talked about what Falcon's annual revenue is, as well as Braves. I mean, we thought, you know, they're big organizations, right? Big organizations, but their annual revenue is about, you know, $250, $280 million a year. In Atlanta, there's a big company, Coca-Cola. What do you think their annual revenue is? Jackie, you want to take a guess? Couple hundred million? Anybody else want to take a guess? Andy, you want to take a guess? Andy's not here, he left. He doesn't get gifts, right? June, you want to take a guess? Billion? Coca-Cola, worldwide. Next, please. Their revenue is $46.1 billion last year. Globally. I mean, Coca-Cola, you know, they own restaurants and everything too. So globally, $46.1 billion. Do you think PepsiCo is bigger than Coca-Cola? No? Next, please. $66.8 billion revenue by PepsiCo. They own Pizza Hut, they own Taco Bell, they own a lot of different restaurants as well as Pepsi and drinks and everything, right? So I mean, these are huge companies. Coca-Cola is a huge company world-known sauce PepsiCo. How much do you think these 39 plants in Alabama and Georgia, as well as Hyundai and Kia, what kind of economic contribution they generate per year? Anybody want to take a guess? 100 million? 100 billion? Wow, that's a lot. I mean, 100 billion, you gotta be bigger than PepsiCo and Coca-Cola combined together. You know, you can't, that's not easy to do. But in U.S., this year they're going to sell about 16.5 million cars this year. So it's back to what it was before 2008 crisis. So they're selling a lot of cars. Car sales are doing good. These companies, they came from Korea, our home country. Hyundai and Kia, as well as the suppliers, 30 companies that came here, they generate about $66 billion of trade per year. Next. That's a lot of money. I mean, you guys probably did not know that. $66.7 billion of trade from these companies that came from Korea to Alabama and Georgia. So the company that you came from, the companies from the country that you came from, they are contributing quite a bit to Georgia and Alabama. So you should be proud of yourself. You should be proud when you're running into people that work in these companies. Because you are one of them. So that's about Hyundai and Kia and the suppliers and what they do in this area. Now, as I said, the second section is that I am obligated to talk about the company that I work with. Next, please. Mondo, as the MC announced, is a global company headquartered in South Korea. We have locations in Europe, in China, India, Korea, obviously, and North America and South America. And we are planning to build a plant in Mexico. Next, please. Our sales this year will be about $5.5 billion. So that's not a small business. And obviously sales from Korea is largest. And China used to be smaller than North America, now they're bigger. And China is second, and America is third at $971 million a year. And it's about the same number of people that work for us. We have most people in Korea, at about 4,500 people. China, about 2,500 people. And North and South America together, about 1,200 people. Next, please. It's kind of funny. This company was incorporated in October of 1962, and I was born in October of 1962. And I don't know how I came to Mondo by accident, but when I did come and I learned the company was incorporated in October of 1962, I thought is it karma or is it just kind of accident? But it's good, it's good. And we have about 9,630 employees globally, and you can see the sales history. We grew quite a bit. And the products that we make are brake products, steering products, suspension products, and we have iron casting operation. And also, this is a new thing that we've been working on for a while, which is driving aid systems, smart cruise control, autonomous braking, so you don't get into accidents where cars will stop by itself when they get within certain distance to another object. So lane keeping, parking assistance. So we do a lot of those things as well. Next, please. Now this is the company I work with, Mondo America. I think some of you came to our grand opening in July. Mondo America was actually established in 1996 in Detroit as a sales office. But the real, company growth started in 2004 when we built a plant in Alabama. And as you see in the picture on the bottom left, there's a plant and also the warehouse we built in 2009. And 2006 is when we started to supply to GM, and that's when I joined the company. And now we have 2 plants in Georgia and also a couple of tech centers in Michigan. Next. She's doing good now, isn't she? These are the products that we make here. We are a unique company. Actually, Mando is a unique company. There is no other company in the world that makes all three chassis category products like steering, brake, and suspension. Mando is the only company in the world that makes all three types of product. And amongst Mando America is the only company that makes all three products in the same plant. So it's unique that we are making a lot of different kinds of products, but it's tough because it's hard to become experts in so many different types of products. And these are the products that we make: calipers, brake corner modules, which has rotors and knuckles and calipers, and also master boosters, and electronic stability control systems. And these are what makes your car stop when you want it to. And also a casting. We started a casting plant. We tried to buy castings in America. And as you know, after 2008, a lot of the casting or foundry business has closed down in America because the economy was bad and they got consolidated and shut down. And since then, a lot of the U.S. companies started to buy castings from India and China. We were looking to buy castings in the U.S. and we couldn't find enough capacity or competitive capacity. And so we decided to vertically integrate and do the casting ourselves. So we have a casting plant in Georgia now, and we machine it in Georgia and we assemble it in Alabama. So we are completely vertically integrated when it comes to brakes. And then we also do electronic steering gears and hydraulic gears, struts and shock absorbers. So everything that makes your car ride smooth or rough, turn left or right, or stop and go, we make. So it's, if we don't do a good job, I don't think you'll have a nice ride. And if you look at our current customers, unlike those 30 companies I told you about earlier, I think most of them are Hyundai and Kia dedicated suppliers. We're a little different, where our business in America, 55% of our current business is selling to GM. And also 30% is to Kia, and 15% is Hyundai. And as I said earlier, we support these customers with our plant and a warehouse in Alabama, near Oblite, and two plants in Hogansville, Georgia. Next, please. Our sales in 2014 is about $930 million, and our plan is to get beyond $1 billion and reach about $1.3 billion by 2020. That's our goal, and we are working towards it. Next, please. I think something failed here. Can we go back, please? I know somebody, she knows, that works for me. So if I don't have anything direct, if I don't have direct impact through her, then I can do something kind of around the way. Anyways, I don't know what happened to the slide, but so our sales, once we reach about $1.3 billion by 2020, I think we'll be more balanced with the customer market share, where GM is going to be about 20%, and the together is about 30%, 20% Chrysler, and the rest are other customers like Ford and Honda. So I think it's important in a business to have diversified customer base. That way, when something does happen to one of your customers, you're not suffering along with it. And our employees, we currently have about 950 employees. And by the time we reach 1.3 billion, we should have about 1,700 employees in our plants in Opelika and Hogansville. And we talked about how much these suppliers invested so far, $2 billion, right? And out of the $2 billion, Mando invested $260 million so far. And in order to reach our goal for over the next 4 or 5 years, we have to invest another $327 million. So when we are done here, we would have invested about $600 million. So because we have customers other than Hyundai and Kia, we have to continue to grow. Where some of these other companies, They are set with the capacity that they need to have to support only Hyundai and Kia. So Mango America is growing, and we need a lot of help. Next is the page that you saw with the picture earlier. That was the front view of our Georgia plant, where we had the opening ceremony in July. So that's the company that I run. Like I said, I was lucky to be able to be put in a position where I can run a company, almost $1 billion company, and it's bigger than Braves or Falcons. Four of them together is like the company I run, so it's fun. It's a lot of headache, but a lot of fun. But I think the topic today, if you saw the program, was finding your place or making your place. That's the topic. I think I made my place. But I think there's a lot of young people here that are, like I said, smarter than me, with probably better education, that are just starting out in their career, or they've been in the business world for a little bit, but probably not as long as I have. A lot of times I think as 1.5 generation or second generation Korean, we don't know where we belong. And we try to kind of not get in the way when we were younger, and try to fit in, not get picked on. I think it doesn't change as you get older. Now, I was a little different. I mean, when I first came, I was 14 years old. And I came to Cleveland a lot. And I think if you've been in America for a little bit, you know what Cleveland is like, the reputation of Cleveland. It's a pretty tough blue-collar town. So I came, and the school I went to was about half black, half white. And the first day or first week I went to school, it was tough. I mean, I go to school, I didn't speak English, and these guys are saying ching ching chong to me, and I mean, it's not nice, right? When you hear things like, even though you don't know what ching ching chong means, but it sounds immediate. So I got into a lot of fights, and beat up some people, and got beat up, but along the way, people found out that even though I look different, I'm not going to put up with anything that's not right. And I think that kind of carried into high school, college, as well as business school, where people find out that I look different, but I think or act the same way as them. And I do my part, and I don't put up with any BS, and I do my part again. But whatever I do, they can depend on me. They can depend on the fact that I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to probably get it done faster than most people, and I'm going to probably get it done with a better result than most people. Like I said, I'm not smart, but I know how to do things. And that's the part that I think I used to get to where I am, and got me in a place where, most of us are looking for best job, finding your place, looking for best job, looking for your dream job. And I'm sure some people here are, looking, and they're looking to see and waiting to find their dream job. Well, it's not there. You will, you find and look, but at a certain point in your life and your career, you're going to say, this is it. This is the company I'm going to be at, and I'm going to make my place in this company by doing what I just talked about. Whatever you do the best you can. Get it done faster than most people. Get it done with a better result than most people. Get involved in everything that's going on in the company. And by doing that, you can make your place. And once you make your place in one company, then other jobs will find you. Looking for a perfect job at the beginning doesn't work. You have to decide to stay at one place and make your place. And then places will find you. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I talked about what you wanted to hear or not, but that's what I did. And I think I've succeeded because I talked about my company. And if I don't, obviously it's not right. And I know Mr. Kim will be meeting my boss, and he's gonna say, yeah, I talked about mine was great. I think that's good. So I got that done. But you know, the last part, as I said, I mean, growing up in America as a Korean American, and going through school, going through work, it's not easy. I know it's not easy. But one thing that I do want to say, my father passed away a couple of years ago, but as I was growing up and I got my first job at Ford, he says to me that you're going to be discriminated. He says, you are not white American. He says, you are not going to go anywhere in that company. He says, you think you will, but you're not. I fought a lot with my father because I didn't believe that. I had a lot of friends. Well, I grew up in an area where there weren't many Koreans. So I had no choice but to have friends that are just Americans. And I hung out with them, and obviously, you know, through the school and everything. And I went to, when I joined Ford, my father told me that, and at that point, I mean, I told him that's not true. Because that's not what I've experienced. And I have not been discriminated against. And I don't think I will be discriminated against, because I will not put up with it. And I got into so many arguments with my father. But 15 years later, when I went from Ford to Nissan to Morton International, which later became Autolead, that makes airbags and seatbelts for cars, and became an executive in the company, and a president of a joint venture company that Autolead and Mondo did, my father was proud of me. He said, you were right. I mean, you went to a European company, an American company and European company, and you got to a point where I didn't think you would, because I thought you would get discriminated against, but it didn't happen to you. You were right. And I think it's because, like I said, you don't have to put up with it. And you just have to do your part. Then you can make your place, and once you make your place once, other places will find you. Thank you.
Well, I'm a little nervous. 3 months ago, I was just a software engineer hanging out on my back deck, and then my leg changed. Kim, thank you very much for having me tonight. Your story was very inspiring, very impressive, and then there's me. So, just to start out, for those of you that are interested in politics, when I started, I had no idea what to do, and I met some people and I asked them advice. So feel free to come to me for advice if you want it, if you want to get involved in politics. Just some tidbits. Number one, in municipal elections, about 50% of it is just shaking hands, going out and meeting people, knocking on doors. I knocked on about 2,800 doors, some twice, made a lot of contacts. Made about 1,500 contacts and got about 1,500 votes, so that's how that works. State Representative Pat was very instrumental in getting elected. Called me, gave me some very solid advice, helped me raise funds. That's another thing you know. You have to have money to get into politics. So, from 3 months ago, just a software engineer, and now I'm a city councilman, only in America, possibly Canada can this happen. And so I just wanted to keep half my speech, but that's okay. First of all, I want to say that one of the things that my mother always taught me was to be proud to be a Korean, to be a Korean heritage. We gave the world movable type, and we also, if you go to sporting events, the Falcons, we also gave the world thundersticks. So that's something to be very proud of. I moved to America when I was 6, and we actually landed in Auburn, Alabama, and it was an interesting time to say the least. There were times when today we're very proud to be Korean. There's Kia and Samsung and Mondo. And but when I was here in 1980, a lot of people said, "So are you Chinese or Japanese?" And I said, "Well, actually, I'm from Korea, which is a country between the two, with our own distinct language and culture." And then they would say, "So are you Chinese or Japanese?" So moving along, I knew that we were different. And my mother always taught me, John, people are always going to be seeing you in the spectrum of being a Korean. They're going to expect other Koreans to be like you, so you have to represent. You have to lead your life in a way that will make everyone proud, so that Koreans that come after you will not face discrimination. I will not think the Koreans are lazy, will not think the Koreans are dumb, will not think the Koreans, can't achieve things, because we can, and we always have. Even though we have differences, at a certain point, I realized that there are a lot of similarities between Koreans and Americans. Southern hospitality and Asian hospitality are very similar. I still have nightmares when I have parties not running out of food. We both love barbecue, and that is something that both Koreans and Americans enjoy. And one thing that really has given me pride is our sense of community and our sense of history. And it naturally extends into being a good neighbor and being, no matter what race you are. So, after attending computer high school at Emory University and going through my consulting career and working at the CDC, I had a life-changing moment in my life. I went home to Korea to Gwangju in 2002 to visit family and also to go watch the World Cup. And as most of you know, in the quarterfinal game, when none of us expected it, Anjanan scored the winning goal to advance. And I was sitting in the plaza in South Korea, Gwangju, and that was, at that moment, I had this groundswell of just pride and emotion. And I felt such a strong sense of community there with all my brethren. And I remember the announcer announcing, the world is watching, let's not leave a mess. And within 60 seconds, everyone had picked up all the trash, put it in the bins, and it was a clean city. And then we went out and partied, obviously, and we would go to the Noritama, and random groups of teenagers, 20, 30 teenagers running with flags waving, yelling, and that was one of the proudest moments of my life as a Korean. So we moved to Brookhaven, and I'm just an average guy who writes software for a living, and I saw some things that I wanted to change in Brookhaven. But another thing that I wanted to present to the United States and the people of Atlanta is this sense of community from having a World Cup watch party. So my friends and I, who play soccer with me, and one of my friends was a cancer survivor, organized soccer. We brought 15,000 people to the city of Brookhaven. We raised $35,000 for blood cancer research on outreach. And that was a springboard for me being involved in the community. And so people asked me to run. So my lessons as a Korean in being part of the community and being loyal to each other and watching out for each other naturally translated into the political realm. My opponent was all about his resume. It's all about what he can do for you. My message was, we're going to do things together. Together, we're going to deal with the challenges that face Brookhaven, that face our community. Together, we're going to move ahead. And that message resonated to the point where I won the election by a margin of 2-1. And I was very proud to be able to present my sense of community and neighborliness as a Korean to the citizens of Brookhaven. And when we share a common goal and a common heritage and a common sense of community, whether you're a country hosting the World Cup, whether you're putting a festival together for your city or your metro area, or whether you're just neighbors getting together to improving our parks in the area, that it doesn't matter what level you're at, that sense of community and that sense of belonging and that sense of shared common goal is what can really you can do anything. And I'll end this with the same slogan that I ended my campaign. Together, we're going to do great things.
햇살이 비추던 제게는 웃을 소용 있던 사람 있겠어요 이토록 아름다운 당신만이 나에게 짙은 것 대여하면 이런 마음 사랑의 빛나는 주세요 무슨 소용 있겠어요 감사합니다.